Welcome to today's episode of WooNews TV, where we will be discussing human design. I'm going to read what that's about. It's a system designed for self-awareness and self-growth. Founded in 1987, it's a combination of ancient and modern sciences from astrology, I-Ching, Kabbalah, the Chakra system, and quantum physics. My guest today is Anja Berg. Hello, Anja.
Hello.
Anja is actually going to do my human design. I'm not very familiar with this myself, so we will all be learning about it together. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let me tell you all a little bit about Anja before we jump in. She was born and raised in Germany and enjoys living in sunny Southern California with her two children. Anja is passionate about helping women see their potential and shed those limiting beliefs. Human design is the perfect tool she uses to shed light onto her clients' gifts and talents. She recently started her own podcast, Step Into the Flow, where she holds space for women to share their stories about personal growth, courage, and to help inspire her audience. So how's that show going?
It's going well. I finally launched it, I think 2 weeks ago. There were a couple of hiccups, but I didn't know you have to submit it ahead of time to get it up on Apple Podcasts, but it's all a learning experience. So every single episode I'm learning something, and that's also the beauty of it. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, in the description of the show, we'll have all of Anja's links, including to the podcast. So
Great.
Check it out for sure. Okay, my friends. So tell us about your story and how you landed upon human design.
Sure.
How'd you get here?
Yeah, so a few years ago, I started doing a lot of inner work. Obviously reading all the spiritual books, but then I also went on a couple of retreats. And I started working with a life coach, and talking to her, I felt like whenever I came out of a retreat, everything was great and I was doing so much better. But then as life went on, I always felt like I'm coming back to the same place, feeling stuck. Like, well, now I learned all of this, but I'm here. I'm still constantly tired. I can't sleep, even though I'm overtired, like the same running in circles pretty much. And so talking to her, I remember the first time I heard her say, I don't think you are living in alignment. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? And she's like, have you ever heard of human design? And I said, no. And then she sent me a couple links. She talked a little bit about it, sent me some links. And then after we got off the phone, I typed in all my information on this website and pulled my chart. And of course, I didn't understand anything, but I started Googling. And then that was the beginning of the end. So I went to the library, I found a book, I ordered more on Amazon, I Googled, and every time I learned something about my chart, it was like a light bulb went on. Everything made so much sense. And then I got really into it. So I would spend my weekends. There's a lot of amazing educational YouTube videos. So I would follow this one YouTuber and spend literally weekends learning about it. And yeah, I learned my own chart and it all made so much sense to me. After that, I also pulled the charts for both of my children. That was very eye-opening too, because I learned so much about what, obviously when you're a mom and I have a son and a daughter, and there's a 3-year age difference, like you don't parent them exactly the same way. But I was like, oh my God, it's like all to see how different they are and how it's like mind boggling. So then it helped me a lot with my children. And then I was just fascinated and I went deeper and deeper. And then eventually I decided I want to learn more and signed up for a course to become a certified reader. And so I did that. That was a lot online. And we had an amazing group, students from all over the world. So we would meet online and have live sessions. Then we also had to do a lot at home by ourselves. And then we had to give each other practice readings, which was really fun. And right after that, I started giving readings to people. And I felt like I'm on the right path, because every time the look in someone's face when you say something that totally resonates is like so satisfying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved it. And that's how from there, I had the idea of doing a podcast, because through these readings, it became clear to me how many limiting self-beliefs we all have. So many of the women, I would say something, she was like, yeah, that makes sense, but no, I can't do that because, just playing so small. And I'm like, and that's me too. So I'm like, we have to do something about it. Like, there's so much potential, but we all feel like we are not good enough. We don't know enough. And so that's how the idea about the podcast came along. So now I'm doing both. I'm doing readings, and then I'm hoping to share people's stories on the podcast to also encourage women.
Do you incorporate their human design in your podcast?
Usually not. I have some scheduled where we talk about human design, but I mainly focus on people's story that they want to share. Yeah. And a lot of times it's not always traumatic stories, but sometimes it is. So I feel like it's not the right time and place. But I do have some women who came on the podcast, and then after they were curious about it and want to learn more about their human design. But it's kind of, I think it would be a little too much, but maybe not. It depends on the topic they are talking about.
Yeah. So what is human design, and how does it help me?
So yeah, I describe it as a self-help tool, essentially. So like you said at the beginning, it's a combination of like an ancient system and a modern system. And it just pretty much shines the light on parts of yourself that you were not really aware about. And to explain it a little bit easier, if you don't mind, I share a screen.
Oh, yes. Let me see.
So the human design combines all of these, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, hexagram, the astrology, and the I-Ching. And I think this picture, because it's like, usually people think, what does that all mean? But I think this explains it pretty well, because we have these 9 centers in a chart. And so these are similar to the chakra system. Then this is the planets. And you will see here, essentially you need someone's name, date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth. Then you go to a website like this. There's several websites where you type in that information, and then it shows you human body type looking graph like this. And so it shows, now I go to this, it shows everything on the red is what you are unconscious about. So this is the planetary positions. See all these numbers here, for example,
the degrees.
Yes, we find these numbers here again. And all the ones you see here are here highlighted. Highlighted means they are present in yourself. So this is all the unconscious side. This is the conscious side. This is where the numbers come from. And so now to put it in simpler words, so your human design, the unconscious side is a lot of times where you are conditioned in your life, where you just pretty much do things the way you've always done them, even though it's not beneficial for you, but you don't really know how to change it because it's unconscious. So
it's unconscious programming, like from childhood or
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so this is where I think human design is amazing, because once you look at it and someone shows you the unconscious things in your chart, it's like, again, the light bulb goes on.
And that's where the work is, I imagine.
Exactly.
Inner work is, so that you can change those. So if this might not be the right time for this question, but so say somebody does work on some of these unconscious patterns that are revealed in their human design. If you did my design a year later, would it still be the same? And the unconscious patterns, I guess, are the patterns that come up based on this information you're given to run these charts. But yet your degree of that being a problem for you changes, I imagine.
So the chart is always going to look the same.
Okay.
Because that's where the dates come in. And I don't want to go into detail because it's really confusing, because one side uses the information from the time of birth, and the red side is actually from 3 months before date of birth, the planetary constellation 3 months before. So it's never going to change. But yes, you would feel better. You would.
I would notice a difference, but the chart would stay.
You would notice a difference, but the chart is going to look the same.
I do want to say one thing. The one thing I know about human design, and please tell me if I'm right or wrong, Anja, it's very intricate, very, very intricate and very in depth. So today we're doing a simplified version of it, but it's pretty complex, right?
It's so complex. Okay. So to give you an example,
so if you don't always understand what we're saying, don't be discouraged. There's a process to this, and we're just touching the surface of it today.
Oh, definitely. So I, even after studying it and getting certified, like, we still have a study group where we meet, or I go back and get my own readings, because it's just, there's so many layers. So for example, these arrows up here, I'm not even going to mention. Down here, it says incarnation cross. I'm not even going to mention. So usually you do a 60 to 90 minute reading where you explain the basics, what it's all about. And that already takes 60 to 90 minutes. And then people need time to digest all of this. And then a lot of times, a week or 2 weeks later, we meet again, because then the questions come up when they understand more about it. But then oftentimes we do another session where we talk about how to actually implement all these things, because it also depends what area of your life do you want to improve. Do you want to improve a relationship? Is it just personal work on yourself you want to do? Do you want to use human design for your business, for raising your children? So then we have to go into the specific area and talk about it.
Okay. But today we're just doing my basics about me.
So yes, today we're going to learn, and then again to implement. First learn, digest, and then implement. Okay. So you can't expect to do it all in one. It's too much.
You're not even sharing what you would normally share in a session with someone, just in interest of time, right?
Right. Yeah. Because again, it's 60 to 90 minutes usually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But, this is just the basic to see what it looks like and to understand where this is all coming from.
And just looking at this, I'm seeing, I know I'm jumping ahead, but I'm seeing anger and peace and martyr, heretic. And I'm very curious about what all that means.
Yeah. And we can jump right in. So the basic thing here, it says your type is a manifestor. So in general, there's 5 different types. The most common one is generator. Then there's manifesting generator. Then there's manifestor, projector, and reflector. So your type is the manifestor. And then it's important to know this number, 3, 5.
That sounds very positive now, Anja.
Yes.
Martyr?
Yes. So 3, 5, they call it murder, heretic. So I wrote down the experimenter for 3 and the liberator for 5 to explain it in
Oh,
easier words. So
that's a little more positive than
right.
experimenter. Sounds better to me than martyr.
And what it means, so the 3-5, there's 12 different profiles. It's a different combinations of numbers. And so the number 3, which is the experimenter, pretty much just means that the way you like to learn is by experiment.
Yes, that's very true.
And learn your own lessons from doing it yourself. And the 5, the liberator, means kind of the save the day energy, which is amazing, but can be problematic for a lot of people because sometimes they take on everyone else's problems and think they have to save the day for everyone.
And that can go into martyr.
Right. So this is a very simple explanation. So everyone has a different, I'm a 1-5, for example. So everyone has a different profile.
Okay.
So the basic to know is you're 3-5 manifester. And now the next important thing is the...
Wait a minute. Can you, excuse me, can you clarify manifester?
Oh yeah, manifester. So back in the days, manifester, they used to be like the leaders. Obviously in, nowadays that is not, the explanation anymore, but that's like back in ancient times. So the manifester in general has the easiest time manifesting things in their life. It doesn't mean that the other types cannot manifest things in their life, but for the manifester, it comes easier. So that's the biggest theme about the manifester. And the manifester, the generators are about 70% of the population. So I think the manifester come right after 37 something percent of the population are manifester, but it's all about manifesting things in their life, knowing
bringing things to you that you want to create.
Yes.
Yeah. With ease.
With ease. So that's now where the not self theme and they call it signature here, but I call it self theme and not self theme. What that means is when peace is your self theme, and that means whenever things come easy to you and you feel at peace, it's a sign you are doing it right, especially with the manifestation. If things come true and it feels peaceful and good, you're doing it according to your design.
I'm in alignment with my design.
Yes. And if you feel anger, no matter in which part of your life, but that's an indicator. So now that I know about human design, so my not self theme is frustration. So whenever I feel that frustration come up, I pause and I'm aware, and then I think and take a break and see I'm going the wrong way. I don't push.
Do you look to that to find the source of that frustration in that moment?
Yeah.
So I would look to find the source of that anger in that moment, or that I'm feeling right then, that I'm recognizing.
And the most important step is to be aware when there's anger, okay, now there's anger. I'm not supposed to feel anger. Where's this coming from? Because that can save you from a lot of more frustration or working.
And it can keep me in my signature mode of peace, in my manifestor alignment.
Yes.
What is strategy? What does to inform mean?
The strategy is how you go about things when you have a plan, when you want to do something. So for you, it's important to verbalize what you are going to do. That's it makes you feel good to announce, okay, this is what I want to do. It doesn't matter which area of your life, but if you do that and then go about, and it's not about asking for opinion from other people. It's really literally just to inform, this is what I'm going to do, and then go about that. Just gives you that jump start to do it.
Okay, so that sets it in motion for me.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, this is so cool. Okay.
So for me, it's, for example, I'm supposed to respond to something.
Your strategy is respond.
To respond and not to initiate. And sometimes it gets tricky and people like, well, but I really want to do this, so I'm not supposed to do it. Sometimes you don't clearly see. There's already something you're supposed to respond to. You just don't see it. It doesn't mean, especially when I talk to people about business, their business in human design, they're like, well, I'm not supposed to start my website because I have to wait to respond. Like it's not.
You're responding, but in that case, I could see how they're waiting for an obvious concrete thing to respond to, right? Event or word or whatever. But like in that case, the fact that they need a website is, and then going to do it would be a response, right?
Yeah.
The need can create the response.
Right. Sometimes it's just reframing it, because that's another thing with human design. You can go, all the wording, that's why like there's different words for different things, and you shouldn't just focus on one word, because sometimes it can be a little.
And I think we would tend to make them take it too literally, and it might not be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Authority is really important.
Okay. Oh, what does that mean?
So the authority is how it's all about decision making.
I always follow my instincts, always follow my intuition.
So in having an emotional authority means it's unrelated to what's happening today in your life, but you are always on this emotional wave, up and down. And to me in the beginning, it was confusing, because it's not always, I'm not down for a reason or super happy for a reason. Sometimes it's just, that's just the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you have the same? Is that your same authority?
Yes, I have the same. And what happens is when you are on a high, everything sounds good. You commit, you're like, yeah, let's do this. And then 2 hours later, you're on a low, and then you feel that overwhelm. Oh my God, now I committed to this.
And what did I do? Yeah.
Yes, I said yes.
Very familiar.
Soon. So this is really, really important. So I now know, for especially important decision in my life, I have to, because I also listen to my intuition, but I do it several times before I commit, because I want to feel. So let's say someone asked me to go on a trip, and I feel, yeah, of course I'm going to say yes, we're going to do this. Then I wait a couple hours later, next morning, how does it feel? And in my stomach, if I still feel like this, feeling good, happy, excited, I know it's a yes. But I don't make a decision right in the moment, especially if it's a bigger decision. So they say, write out this emotional wave and listen inward. Do you feel the same about the answer at different times?
Right.
And then if it's a constant feeling, that's how you make a good decision.
Okay.
Because if you are low and you're like, oh, I don't want to go on any trip, no. But the next day you might be like, well, no, actually, I want to go on the trip. So kind of wait it out and see how you feel about it.
If more often than not, you feel one way, that's, excuse me, typically the answer for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So, and for other people, it's better to make a decision in the instant, like the first feeling they get is the best for them, because otherwise they go in circles and they overthink, and then they don't know anything anymore. So it's the authority is different for every person.
What's another example of another kind of authority? Like what you just said, what would that be? Would that be called?
There is, the names are all, again, human design-ish names. For example, splenic authority.
Is that the one where it's best to just go with the first answer that comes in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so the authority, and to learn about your authority is really really important, and to not judge that emotional wave. Because, for example, my daughter, she's such a good example of she's also an emotional type, and I mean, it's like these mood swings from here to there. And sometimes she's like, I don't know why I'm just crying right now. I really don't know. And if you know this about people in your environment or yourself, then you're not as hard on yourself, on other people, because sometimes you just wait it out. They're going to get over it and come out. It's just some people are more emotional like that.
Okay.
So, and so in general, all these centers, what it means if they are colored in, it means that you have that energy pretty much available all the time. And then there's these...
so like, what energy do I have available to me all the time based on this chart?
Number 6. So I call it the gifts, because all these that are highlighted are always available for you. So I say this is your gifts.
Okay.
And the gift number 6 is the closeness to others. So how you can bring people within a short amount of time, create that closeness, that people feel good, open up to you, trust you. So this is, for example, what number 6 is all about.
Okay.
And that's what I would do in a reading. So first I explain what it all means, and then we really go into all these numbers.
Because I'm going to throw something at you that you probably don't want to explain, but I'm seeing 6 in the red and in the gray column.
So again, 1 is conscious, means that you are aware about it.
Okay.
And unconscious means, a lot of time when I point out the black numbers, the unconscious numbers, that's where people, they didn't know that about themselves. If you ask someone else, they would probably, someone close to you would probably confirm. But you don't see it for yourself. And that's, like I said earlier, that's where a lot of the conditioning is. And that's where I like to dig in my own chart and look at it and be aware and try to implement in my life. So if it shows up on both, that means it's conscious and unconscious.
Okay.
So yeah, and we can go, I didn't do every single number, but I just want to point out a couple that I think are standing out for you. So the number 9 is about focus, and it shows that you know what you want, and you like to be very efficient with your energy to get that outcome. And sometimes if you feel like you are wasting your energy, you're putting your energy into something and not getting out what you want to get out, then that can cause frustration.
Anger, perhaps, since that's my not self theme. Yeah.
Yes. So you pretty much don't like to waste your energy and be focused on using it efficiently. The number 12, I think is very interesting, is the noticeable voice. And what that means is you have a way to, a gift to say things in a way that people want to listen to you. Like the way you communicate, people are a lot of times not aware, but they are curious. They want to hear more and they listen closely to you. So a lot of people with that gift have an audience, like you do right now with the podcast, or they are some kind of speaker, because somehow they attract these people.
I would say it's more of the energetic resonance than what I'm actually saying. For me, but well, and I am, for like in my work, in my private sessions that I do, I try to meet people where they are and talk to them to translate the information I'm getting and what their guides want them to hear in the language that they can understand it.
And I think that's exactly what it is. The way you say it, they listen because the way you put it.
Interesting.
So,
Okay. Thank you for confirming that, for affirming that for me. This is so fascinating. I could spend hours on this. My God.
I love this too. Then you go one after another and you point it out, and then you can discuss, does it resonate? Do you see that?
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't, it's not like every chart people completely resonate with everything. There's some things in my chart that I don't agree. I don't feel like that's me. And it's kind of like give and take. It's not 100%, you know, what resonates with you take it from the reading, and what doesn't, you just leave it.
With any kind of reading, or whatever you read, even on, you know, if you're reading something too, this is what I always say, take what feels right to you. Just because I'm saying it or someone else is saying it, don't take it as your gospel truth. Take what feels right to you and just set the other stuff aside.
Yeah, exactly.
So it sounds like what some of the many benefits from this is helping you recognize unconscious patterns that you might want to work on and release. Seems to help you understand, to know when you are in alignment and when you're not, based on how you're feeling, like mine being anger when I'm misaligned and feeling peaceful when I'm aligned. And it also seems to be very helpful in helping you recognize the best approach for you to make decisions.
I think the most important, or the biggest benefit from knowing about your human design, is that when these negative feelings come up, that's like a sign for you. Okay, pause, stop. You don't have to push through. There's an easier way to do things, and to recognize when it's happening and pause and then adjust. I think that's the biggest.
To use that sensation as information.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And then, yeah. And then when you know that peace is how you are supposed to feel, I check in with myself. I'm like, this feels really good. Oh, now this comes easy to me. I don't have to force it. It's, I think just an important thing to say is, because with all these self-help tools, I really want to point out that human design is more about unlearning from, conditioning. It's not so much about, oh, I have to take step 1, 2, 3, 4 to get here.
Right.
It's like you have to learn to unbecome. You don't have to do anything, but every time you pay attention and you try to unbecome or undo something, you feel a little bit better. And then, like I said earlier, then you can apply it to all areas of your life. And what's really interesting, lately I had parents and children, or mom and daughter, doing the readings, and so they understand each other. It can help a lot with communication, or in the professional world, if you put coworkers' design next to each other, it can really help eliminate miscommunication in the workspace and family. So the potential is just so much potential.
Well, and just on what you've shown today, we've just scratched the surface. I can only imagine how much more in depth this and helpful this could be.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Definitely.
Oh, this was great, Anja. So is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I mean, again, I know it's confusing at first, but it's really,
because looking at this chart, I'm like, what? But as you explain it, the chart doesn't really make sense, but your explanation of what the things mean does make sense.
Yeah. And then you can have a reading, but you can also, what I have, a lot of times they call it a blueprint. I think it's about 50 pages written down, all the information written down, and I use it a lot. I print it out, so I go back and read about some things, because that's another option. You can have a reading or you can have it written out so you can go back and read it. But I think
I think having some interpretation of it's very helpful from a person, not just reading it myself, because it can be very heady.
And it's a lot of so I used to work as a translator. That's also why I like human design, because I translate. The language is overwhelming sometimes. So to simplify and use different words, because otherwise I feel like my head is going to explode.
Yes, I can see how that could happen with this. This was so wonderful. Oh my gosh, I feel so much more empowered and knowledgeable about myself.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you so much, my dear.